Hello and welcome back to live coverage of the Apex Gaming Team Open here in sunny Caldwell, Ohio. I'm Tandy, joined by Ross Merriam. Say hi, Ross.
Hi, Ross.
We have one round down and five more Swiss to bring you, as well as the top eight. We're going to be completing all of that today. Tomorrow, we're going to be running it back with a full Modern Open, doing basically the same thing. We got a lot of players in the room today, 44 teams battling it out for cash and prizes, and the vibes, immaculate.
Vibes are immaculate. Everybody having a good time. Ton of pre-release events going on today as well at the first Apex Con. You're starting Series 4 of the Apex series, and we're entering round 2 of this team event. So still early. Players trying to get off to a good start.
Yeah, we had a really awesome round one match where we watched a team of May French, Jacob Fumage, and Don Delozier, three big names here on the Apex series, defeating James Mangus, Jacob Woods, and Franklin Folks. May French's World Souls Rage deck. Honestly, one of the bigger decks in Standard right now, really on the uptick. One of my favorite streaming duos, System Magic, that's Greg and Andrew. They have been playing a ton of that deck, and I've been really enjoying watching them play in May. Just really bringing that deck and showing who's boss.
Good start for it in round 1. We'll see if it can continue through the rest of the tournament. But we're going to take a step into Pioneer as our focus for this round. That's where we're going to start. In the feature match area for round 2. We'll, of course, bring you the other matches as much as we can, but Pioneer will be the focus, and that is going to be TJ Radizak on Niv to Light and against Matthew Bolliard on Jund Citadel. That is Bolus's Citadel. So these are two decks sort of from Pioneer's past that are maybe coming back into the limelight. I know Niv to Light had a very good weekend, multiples in the top 8 of recent challenges on Magic Online, and we were talking with TJ before the event. He thinks it's really well positioned, and bringing it today, he's definitely one of the stronger players in the field. We see him at these events a lot. So we'll see if he can bring back this Pioneer Classic, and then Bolliard on Jund Citadel.
Oh, man.
That's one I have not seen in a while.
We just glanced at the deck list, and I saw Bolsa Citadel X4, and I went, hello. And, it makes some sense. We saw the transition away from Bolsa Citadel to a more low-to-the-ground Rakdos Sacrifice deck for quite a long time with Cauldron Familiar and that kind of combination. But with just decks becoming extremely interactive and mid-rangey, something like Bolsa Citadel just blows the game out of the water.
Yeah, and unlike previous versions of this deck, no copies have collected company. Bolliard instead of opting for 4 Deadly Dispute and 4 Fanatical Offering.
Yes.
That is the, Ultra's Reap that instead makes a map token. You can also sack an artifact to it.
I mean, who wants to Coco into a blister pod anyway, right?
Yeah, true. Does have a lot of 1-drops as well. Shambling Ghast, Blister Pod, as well as 4 copies of Greedy Freebooter. That's a 1-mana 1/1 that makes a treasure and scries 1 when it dies. So a lot of ways to produce additional treasures. I see 4 copies of Prosperous Innkeeper as well. And with Catacomb Sifter and Woe Strider, this is a deck that is designed to play off of the Bolus's Citadel really, really well.
Yeah.
You're going to scry through your deck. You're making a bunch of treasures to keep, recasting more stuff, generating more permanents, and then end up getting into the range where you can activate the activated ability of Bolus's Citadel, dome your opponent for 10.
Zap them. All right, so let's go over the teams real quick and their decks so we can start the match. On one side, we're going to have Nick Cowden, TJ Radizak, and Ryan Hayes. And on the other side, we're going to have Larry McKee, Matthew Bolliard, and Jeremy Harmon. The Cowden-McKee matchup is standard. It's going to be Azorius Control versus Golgari Midrange. The Pioneer matchup is the one you just did. That's Niv to Light versus Jund Citadel. And then lastly, for Modern, Ryan Hayes on 4-color Omnath versus, or 5-color Omnath, versus Jeremy Harmon's Cabal Coffers Mono Black. Notably, Mason Clark actually just won the SCG 5K yesterday and this morning with not Coffers, but a iteration of Mono Black. I'm very curious to see how the evolution of that archetype goes from here on out.
Yeah, a lot of decks trying to go big. The Coffers deck makes a ton of mana, goes big.
Yeah.
The Omnath decks all try to go really big. And that's what we saw last round in Standard as well with Domain against World Souls Rage. So everybody trying to go big in the early rounds of this tournament. And we'll see who can go the biggest, because that's what's going to matter in these matchups where both players are trying to go big. Who edges the other one out?
All right, well, these players are ready and seated in the feature match area. So let's head on down for round number 2 of the Apex Team Open. On your left is Bolliard on Jund Citadel. On your right is Radizak on Niv to Light. We're going to be underway here in just a second. This Nivtalite deck can play Yorion. Yorion is still legal in Pioneer. Not a whole lot of Yorions running around. Normally you see that with stuff like Fires of Invention. But here with Nivtalite, TJ just kind of wanting to dilute the deck and also give himself access to the powerful companion.
Yeah, get to fit in a lot of cool one-ofs with Bring to Light. But really looking over at TJ's list, the card that I'm most interested in is a 4 of. I see 4 copies of Vanishing Verse. That is a very clean answer to Bolas's Citadel.
Yes, it is. All right, so Bolyard starts off here with a 1-drop. His deck is full of 1-drops that can be sacrificed to create treasures via Deadly Dispute and other means. And that is one of the ones that I have never seen before today because I didn't play that limited format.
I also see a copy of Unmoored Ego in TJ's deck. So, right now, if I'm in TJ's seat, I'm looking at all these, cheap creatures, and I'm wondering a little bit, like, what's going on right now? This is a little off the beaten path.
TJ knows what's going on. He might think it's Amalia, but then he sees that the 1-drop is the... What's the name of it? Pull it up real quick.
That would be a Greedy Freebooter.
Greedy Freebooter. So Greedy Freebooter is basically the same thing as, like, Shambling Ghast or the other ones. All of them have slight variations. When they die, you get a treasure, something happens. And in this one, you get to scry 1 and get a treasure. And that helps you just turn on your Deadly Disputes, which are arguably the most powerful cards in the deck.
So now, if TJ is able to suss out exactly what's going on, and I would bet on him doing exactly that, there is also a 1 copy of Unmoored Ego he can find off of Bring to Light. If we can exile those Bolas Citadels, stop any of this nonsense before it even happens, there's not a lot of powerful individual cards in this Jund Citadel deck for Bolyard. Only 2 copies of Mayhem Devil, which we often see as a 4 of staple in Sacrifice decks, and he's going to have to try to just beat down with Catacomb Sifters and Woe Striders. That's going to be very difficult to do against the Niv Mizzet deck. So,
all right, TJ, a veteran of the feature match area, still using his own tiny blue dice. I'm going to scream at him. We have Chapter 2, Fable the Mirror Breaker. We're going to discard 2, draw 2.
There's big dice right next to you, TJ.
They're literally on screen.
I can see them. They're next to your deck. Put one of them on that Fable.
Can we tell the spotter to yell at him? Thank you. All right. We'll get that fixed shortly. Here's Chapter 2. TJ going to be discarding some lands here. Maybe he wants to keep the Mana Confluence, so he has an untapped land guaranteed for this turn. Okay. Finds a Glacial Fortress, so we do get the untapped land.
Okay, and still see a lot of lands. I think there's a Bring to Light in there.
I see Unmoored Ego, so if he sniffs out this Bolas Citadel package,
just naturally drawing the singleton.
Yeah, it's funny. TJ might expect Collected Company here because Bolyard has passed with 4 mana available. And what's really going to happen is Bolyard is going to play a bunch of Deadly Dispute type cards.
Yeah.
And so if TJ just like starts off here with Unmoored Ego and Bolyard in response casts Deadly Dispute, TJ is going to probably not name Collected Company and have to really go into the tank to figure out what to name.
Yeah, I think that's what he was doing there, as he was figuring out the discards to Fable and then figuring out his land drop. He's really just thinking about the Unmoored Ego and exactly what card he wants to name.
All right, well, we'll get confirmation on the name here in just a minute. I'm very curious if he whiffs. This is a thing that happens quite a bit with cranial extraction effects, the big whiff.
Could also name Mayhem Devil. That would be a reasonable one.
But oh yeah, there is a Blightstep Pathway in play, so it's giving away the red mana. Let's see if Bolas the Citadel start coming out. If they do, Bolyard in shambles. Deck basically stops working, but it doesn't seem like any cards are being removed. He might have named Collected Company.
Yeah.
We'll get confirmation on the name so I can make fun of him after the match. What's Collected Company named?
Now, the good news for TJ is you're only going to make that mistake once.
Yeah.
He's seen the deck now. He knows what's up. But that could be big in this game. If Bolyard is able to take it down with a Bolas Citadel, TJ is going to be kicking himself. Just saying, I got to have taken that.
All right. TJ's hand looks pretty solid here. We're going to block the Goblin Shaman, though. Bolyard's going to sacrifice it to Deadly Dispute, making 2 more treasures and drawing 2 cards and threatening Bolsa Citadel next turn. Could even potentially win the game next turn once he gets up so high on mana.
Yeah, this deck, while it has a lot of underpowered cards, can kill very, very quickly once the engine is online.
Okay, gonna go back Bolyard's way. Let's see if he has Citadel combo time. Bolyard's like, my turn? Look at that smile. Look at that smirk. He knows he's about to cast a 6-mana artifact and plays a bunch of cards off the top. Sacks 3 treasures. Here's the powerful Bolsa Citadel. Let's get that one on screen. This is one of the most powerful cards in Vintage because of the card Tinker.
But there is a Leyline Binding in TJ's hand.
Oof. Okay, well, we're going to cast Mayhem Devil and take 3. In response, Binding is going to hit the Bolsa Citadel. Bolyard still gets to see the top card of the deck, and if it's an instant, he could potentially cast it.
Looking at Bolyard's list, there is 1 copy of Boseiju in the main.
He finds a Deadly Dispute, and he's able to sack the Citadel in response to the binding target. That's cool.
It's cool, but it does mean your Boseiju is no longer effective.
All right. But it was free. Can't be free.
I'm saying it's not free.
Free-ish.
You cut yourself out of one of your best draws.
Sure.
The other good draws, 3 copies of Bolus Citadel left in the deck. Let's draw one of those.
All right, so here's Mayhem Devil. We can sack this treasure to do a ping. We still have a land drop to play. We can maybe play a 1-drop. Could even go like land, play another Deadly Dispute style card, deal 2 to the Goblin Shaman token to clear it. We'll see what Bolyard wants to do here. Another pathway. All right, we're going to sack the treasure. 1 to the Goblin, so that means that we're probably going to do 1 more to the Goblin in just a second. And here's Innkeeper. We're going to gain a life. Make a treasure. And my guess is we're going to play a 1-drop.
Yeah, gain 2 more life.
All right, zap. Goblin down. Ooh, nothing to do with the mana, though, so just going to pass it back. TJ, what you got, homie?
That might be a bad sign for TJ. If Matthew's hand is that big, it doesn't have a single 1-drop in it.
Yeah. All right, TJ has, it looks like an Extinction event.
Yeah,
so
that's one of the Singleton sweepers in the list.
But that one doesn't quite get all the creatures on Bolyard's side. It only gets one or the other.
Yeah, and you would want to deal with the Mayhem Devil, but then you lose your reflection.
Here's Wandering Mind. We're going to take a look. The top 6 cards of the deck. Get a non-creature, non-land card from them. A really interesting card. It's also a multicolored card, so it can be found off of Nimazet.
Yeah, can find Bring to Light. Instead here finds a Leyline Binding. That's a pretty good one.
Yeah, has the next Bolsa Citadel in check. It can cast 1 card off the top, maybe 2 if it's an instant on top like last time.
So now we can Leyline Binding the Mayhem Devil. Then the Extinction event can clear out these Prosperous Innkeepers without touching TJ's battlefield at all.
Main phase Binding on the Mayhem Devil so it doesn't get out of control, and so our creatures are kept safe. And we're going to pass it back Bolyard's way. Huh!
Next turn, TJ's got Reflection with Wandering Mind. We can just start triggering that every turn.
You can't see it, but Ross is literally rubbing his hands together like he's ready for dinner. Let's get you a bib so you can eat up this next turn, huh?
TJ's ready to eat up. He's ready to eat Bolyard for lunch.
Here's a Blister Pod. We're going to sack it. We're going to draw 2, make a treasure, and one of those Eldrazi Scions that can be sacked for mana as well. Bolyard's deck looking like a fine-tuned engine. All he wants to do is play little guys and then sack them.
And he's drawing a bunch of cards, getting more mana onto the battlefield, but needs to find a Citadel. This deck really doesn't come together unless Citadel happens. Very all in.
When we talk about what Bolyard is doing, oftentimes we refer to it as spinning your wheels, where you play a thing, you sack the thing, you draw a card, or you just play a thing that replaces itself, but you're not really advancing too much. You need a turbine in play. You need a Mayhem Devil. You need a Bolsa Citadel. You need something to pay off your spinning of wheels.
It's one of the more powerful individual cards from Bolyard. That's Catacomb Sifter, so can, dig even further into the deck, scrying when we sacrifice all these creatures.
All right, gonna go back TJ's way. We're gonna start with copying the Wandering Mine. We're gonna look at the top 6. We get a non-creature, non-land. So Lightning Helix, something we could take. If we find Bring to Light, we could do that. Maybe go get a Valky.
That I would be down for that.
Valky.
Ross approved.
All right, up the beanstalks to grab. Card Advantage Engine online.
And we already have our card advantage engine online. This is just sort of more of the same.
Mm.
I want something that is going to clock them or put us so far ahead it doesn't matter, like Valky or a Niv Mizzet, a Bring to Light. It's because if I'm TJ, I'm kind of scared of a second Citadel. My opponent's drawn a bunch of extra cards. They've got more creatures on the battlefield. They have more mana. Any Citadel could just end the game on the spot.
Yeah, I do not think TJ is in a good position here. I want to be clear with that. While he is doing a lot of powerful things and has a lot of cards at his disposal, I think that there is a good chance that Bulliard casts a Citadel next turn and just wins.
Okay. Well, the Extinction event here is quite nice.
We're going to name Even Stevens, and we're going to get everything except Catacomb Sifter from Bulliard's side and keep all of our things.
So we should see some sacrifices to the Sifter. So this is the awkward part of Extinction event. Though, if you sacrifice all the evens, TJ could name Odd and deal with everything, deal with the Sifter, but if you pretty much know TJ's not naming Odd because he doesn't want to remove his own Reflection and Wandering Mind.
Right.
So pretty safe here for Bulliard to just do the normal sacrificing before the sweeper. When normally Extinction event puts you into a very awkward position.
Mm-hmm. Most of the time, what we've seen with Extinction event is out of decks that specifically build in such a way where they can choose one or the other, and it mostly is ineffective against their own creatures. And here, Odd is a common name, but with so many odd things on TJ's side and so many even things on Bulliard's side.
And here, Bulliard leaves the Prosperous Innkeepers because he already left a card on top. He found something he liked, so no need to sacrifice more. Just to leave the card on top, just force TJ to make the play that you expect him to make.
All right, another Innkeeper comes down though.
So just rebuilding. Bulliard has plenty of time. He's gained extra life off of the previous Innkeepers. Now has a third copy that'll gain even further life and isn't being pressured very much by TJ. Just the Wandering Mind and copy token from the Reflection coming in for 4 a turn at this point.
All right, another draw 2.
Still just digging for another Citadel.
Yeah, his deck's very good at doing this little song and dance. Play a creature, sack a draw. Play a creature, sack a draw. And then the Citadels and the 2 Mayhem Devils are the big payoffs. TJ sweating them.
Is this the second Mayhem Devil? No, just preparing in case he draws it by playing the Cragcrown Pathway.
I do think I saw the Mayhem Devil in hand, but maybe waiting to build up the board a little bit bigger, and then play it, then sack everything, and deal massive damage to face.
Yeah, I understand wanting to get max value, but playing it earlier could answer this Wandering Mind and stop the combo that TJ has, so that has value as well.
That's true. Because it's going to be pretty easy to find another sweeper or something similar here when you just get to Wandering Mind every turn for 1 mana. Top of the deck looks relatively unkind and a big whiff, mostly creatures.
Or you could completely brick,
Yeah. Look, non-creature, non-land. Here's 4 Nivs, another Wandering Mind in the land. Sometimes you miss.
Yeah, there's only 30 of those in TJ's deck.
Second, up the beanstalk. 2 or 3 lands in hand for TJ. It's looking pretty dicey. We're going to buy Yorion.
That's pretty good.
If you're Bulliard, you got to be jumping up and down.
That's another punish, by the way, for sacrificing that first Bolas Citadel with the Leyline trigger in the stack.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's an empty Leyline binding on TJ's side that he can blink with the Yorion and get an extra card of value.
True. All right. Back Bulliard's way. Drew another draw 2 effect, I believe. We're going to start with the Devil. Gain 2. Bulliard never going to die to damage until these Innkeepers are gone. 2 Innkeepers exiled, 2 in play. We're going to sack the Scion. That's going to give us a ping and a scry. We'll see where he wants to ping. 1 damage to Reflection.
Okay, going to deal with the Reflection first. Now, what do we have? Okay, another sacrifice here. Going to draw a couple more cards with the Fanatical Offering.
Yeah, and then follows up with another greedy freebooter. Gonna gain some more life.
Yeah, that's the freebooter. Okay.
Well, we removed the reflection. That was the big thing. So now there's going to be no more Wandering Minds over and over again. TJ going to even trade the Wandering Mind now with the Prosperous Innkeeper. And we're going to get another Scry.
TJ really valuing reducing Boliard's battlefield now with the Mayhem Devil. Knows that Wandering Mind is not long for this world with the Devil around, so willing to throw it away, protect a point of his life total, and get rid of any opportunity he might have had to blink it with the Yorion.
Okay, so Yorion here going to be the cast for TJ. It looks like he drew another land, but we do have at least one free binding, and we draw 2 off the Beanstalks, and then we draw 2 more when we blinked them.
Yeah, so this is going to be draw 4 plus Leyline Binding on either Mayhem Devil or Catacomb Sifter.
It's got to be the Devil. Okay, here's the Yorion. See what we pick up on these 2 draws. A Caryatid and a Niv Mizzet Reborn. Oakley dokley.
Does blink the 3 relevant permanents. Well.
That does not cast that. We need to go fix that real quick, please.
Yeah, I gotta tap that Jetmir's Garden, TJ.
Yeah, he'll just leave open Glacial Fortress instead, but it is important that he taps his mana correctly. It might change what he's able to play. All right, so Binding does take care of the Mayhem Devil, and we're going to go back to Boliard's Way after we got that fixed. And TJ now with a fresh grip, and it looks like we're back in business. Did he find it? Balls of Citadel off the top. Okay. Reveals.
Now, notably, both Mayhem Devils are gone. So we can't hit more Mayhem Devils. So there's only 2 copies in Boliard's list.
We're going to take the 6 and play another Bolts of Citadel just to clear it off the top of the deck.
Now, that's not completely dead because it should... Oh, no, it still is. I was going to say we could play an additional land to clear off. Oh, it's also legendary. Okay, don't mind me.
Yeah, I was going to say we could cast 1, and then if the top card is a sack draw 2, we could do that.
Yeah, I'm getting too deep in the weeds.
All right, Catacomb Sifter.
So second Catacomb Sifter is great. That's going to allow Boliard to really manipulate the top of his deck and make sure he doesn't run into too many lands.
All right, has played land for turn now with Overgrown Tomb.
But with TJ at 13, how is Boliard going to deal the last few points of damage?
I don't know. Maybe it's just do it again next turn. Oh, 6 more life. Gonna do it again.
And that's the last Citadel.
Yeah.
So now we can't even get into a situation where we activate it, then play another Citadel, keep going with the second Citadel, activate that to end this game. Hit all the Citadels in a glut there in the middle of his deck.
All right, well, we're going to scry a couple to the bottom by sacking that Scion, but we're currently out of sacrifice outlets. We have a mana floating, the Bolts of Citadel active, but here's Woe Strider, and now all bets are off. We can play cards off the top of the deck. Innkeeper are going to give us 1 life per. We are getting dangerously low on life, though, thanks to having to hard cast those Citadels for 6 life each.
But the Woe Strider and the Goat means we'll go back up to 8. So that Prosperous Innkeeper is doing a very important job here, too, ensuring that Boliard can keep this chain going. I suspect that this chain is not going to end. The problem is, without Mayhem Devil, I don't think there's a way for Boliard to deal the last 2 points of damage.
He might be able to draw the Boseiju. I don't think he has the ability to produce green mana anymore.
Yeah, he can draw the Boseiju off of Deadly Disputer Fanatical Offering and then use treasures to channel the Boseiju on the Leyline Binding on the Mayhem Devil. That is the way that Boliard can end this game this turn.
All right, so we're just going to kind of wait until Boliard is done. We're going to confirm life totals, but right now we're just playing cards off the top of that. Let's get Bolts of Citadel on the screen for just a moment so people kind of get a better idea of what's happening. This is a 6-cost artifact, Vintage Superstar along with Tinker. This card allows you to play spells off the top of your deck, and instead of paying mana, you pay life. Now, sometimes you get stuck with a land on top of your deck and you can't go anymore, but once you have achieved 10 permanents on the battlefield, you may sacrifice 10 permanents to deal 10 to your opponent. And with TJ at 13, though, it's not quite enough to get the job done, so Matthew's got to be a little bit careful.
Yeah, still just scrying through the deck.
Ooh, okay, I figured it out. So we go Shambling Ghast, one of the other creatures that can be sacrificed to make a treasure. Then we Deadly Dispute or similar and find a Boseiju, and then we Boseiju the Leyline Binding, get back Mayhem Devil, and then sacrifice everything to Bolsa Citadel to 30 you.
Yes.
Alright, here we go. Let's see if Boliard can find it. It's going to be a difficult thing to do, though.
Yeah, I think with this much on the battlefield at this point, Boliard can just go through his entire deck. So I don't think it's actually that difficult. I'm not sure how many copies of Deadly Dispute and Fanatical Offering he has, though.
He's played a lot already. Remember, this is still game 1.
Yeah. And what he's likely going to need to do is put one of those on the stack and then sacrifice a bunch of stuff to Catacomb Sifters to scry into the Bolus of Citadel
Oh, wow.
to make sure he draws into it.
You're so smart, Ross. I love it. Boliard looks pretty smart, too. This deck looks cool.
Into the Boseiju, I should say.
Mm-hmm. It's awesome. All these one-cost creatures that make a token or a sign or something, right? They replace themselves, but they also are gaining life with the Prosperous Innkeeper because they cost 1 to cast, gain 1, and then when you sacrifice them, sometimes you get a mana, but you also sometimes get a creature to gain that extra life off Blister Pod.
Yeah, so it's with Innkeeper and Catacomb Sifter, it is really difficult to not just keep tearing through the deck. Yeah, Blister Pod ends up netting you life at that point. Woestrider costs 1 life to cast off of Citadel, as does Sifter.
Okay, well, here's one of the draw 2 effects. We're going to sack and get a treasure. Now, Boliard here, if he does what you suggested, where he puts the draw 2 on the stack and then starts sacrificing creatures until he finds the Boseiju, I think that could be the way to win the game, and we'll see if he figures that out.
Yeah, it looks like he is doing that. He has already put the token out of the battlefield. That shouldn't technically be there at this point. So that is not available to sacrifice to anything while the card's on the stack. But it looks like he found cards he wanted.
I believe sacrifice is an additional cost. And so if you sacrifice an additional cost, the token will come into play before the draw 2 resolves.
They're both effects of the spell.
Okay.
Yeah. Dispute is draw 2, create a treasure. Offering is draw 2, create a map.
Says as an additional cost, right?
I'm saying he put the treasure or map onto the battlefield.
I see, okay.
So if you wanted to somehow sacrifice that to some other effect.
Now, there's so much deck manipulation going on. This is almost entirely due to the card Catacomb Sifter. Whenever one of the creatures dies, you do get to scry 1. Woestrider allows you to sacrifice creatures at will, and that 1-2 manipulation is kind of what you're seeing over and over again. And Boliard here at a lowish life total because of all the free casting, but each of those creatures does regain a life. And remember, we still, I believe, have a draw 2 on the stack.
Yeah, I think we're just digging for the 1 Boseiju. This is incredible.
If I'm TJ, I'm like not feeling very good right now.
Yeah, I think he really just needed 1 more turn. If he gets to resolve that Niv Mizzet, there's a pretty good chance he finds a Vanishing Verse.
Yeah.
Because he hasn't seen one so far this game, and it has a good instant speed answer to a Bolus of Citadel and a clock.
All right, we found the Boseiju. And so now Boliard here can spend those treasures to make a green mana. We're going to blow up the Leyline Binding with a Mayhem Devil on it. And TJ packs it in. Boliard, a master of his archetype, finds the line that Ross found and takes down game number 1. That was a very cool game there for the Bolus of Citadel strategy. You know, the Boliard's deck. Really sweet looking.
Yeah, I talked about it before the round. It's about who goes bigger. It was a bunch of up the beanstalks into a Yorion that draws 5 cards. Not as big as Kill You.
Yeah.
Kill
All
You always the biggest thing.
Instead of waiting for these players to sideboard and watching them shuffle and stuff, we're going to swap over to Standard real quick. Nick Cowden is going to be fighting Larry McKee. Nick Cowden on Azorius Control, Larry McKee on Golgari Midrange. And we are in, looks like, game number 2 with Azorius Control, Nick Cowden on their side up a game. That's good news for TJ, who's down a game and on the same team. This seems like a pretty clear-cut advantage for Azorius control. The Golgari mid-range deck, I think, has a lot of trouble beating the card the Wandering Emperor.
Yeah, there's a lot of powerful cards in the control deck, but the Golgari deck plays, 3 Duresses out of the sideboard,
Yep.
4 Deep Cavern Bats in the main, 3 Liliana between main and side. There's a lot of
Are we Gixing?
discard. We are Gixing.
Bat into Gix is
no.
like a
We're
real sick start.
Glissaing, not Gixing.
Ah, okay.
As
The
is
lack of
typical.
Gix makes it a lot more difficult. But we have Chromos Seed Shark, Tishana's Tidebinder, Jace Perfected Mine, and a bunch of these incubator tokens from Farewell, from
Yeah.
Sunfall.
So, well, I think they're from the Sea Shark.
Oh, sure.
And
All right, and we have heard that Ryan Hayes of the same team as Nick Cowden and TJ Radizak also up a game, and so it's currently 2-1 in favor of the Cowden Radizak Hayes team.
yeah, the cards you're seeing out of Cowden here, that Tishana's Tidebinder and the Chromos Sea Shark, these are sideboard cards for his list. So he is sideboarded into more of a mid-range deck rather than being pure control. This is very typical of control decks. Works really nicely because your opponent is always going to think, oh, I'm playing against control, let's board out all my removal.
Yeah.
And now your really good threats go unanswered, and we're seeing here with Chromos Sea Shark, if that goes unanswered, it can dominate a game.
Chromos Seed Shark is a large version of like Young Pyromancer or all those types of effects, and it just like doesn't die too much, and it's a large blocking body, and it flies. It's an excellent card.
Yeah, very excellent sideboard juke card for control strategies.
Agreed.
We see it in many formats, and doing good work here for Nick Cowden in Standard.
All right, Ross, have you ever seen What We Do in the Shadows, the show?
I have not, and
Okay.
I'm pretty sure you knew that.
One of the characters, well, they're all vampires or whatever, but
Yeah.
before he turns, he says, "Bat!" and then turns into a bat and then flies away.
As you do.
That's what I do every time I play Deep Cavern Bat.
Do you think Larry McKee does that too?
Probably. Anyone who plays Deep Cavern Bat needs to say "Bat" right before attacking.
Okay, we'll let the judge know.
All right, this game looks like it's pretty close to wrapping up. Cowden here going to likely take this match.
So we can get back to our main feature here in Pioneer with Matt Bolliard and TJ Radizak. They are right about to start game 2. And for TJ, he's down a game here, but looks like his teammate, Nick Cowden, going to take down that match and put the team up 1 match and only 2 games away from victory. 1 game if Ryan can take it down, because he's up 1-0 in his match in Modern.
That's true. And Ryan, again, is on that Omnath control deck. He's been doing well on Magic Online lately with it. Up against the Cabal Coffer strategy. You have to imagine having blue in your deck is a boon against those Coffer decks because you get access to some blue interaction out of the sideboard that is particularly strong against the big haymakers.
Gonna need that interaction, because if it comes down to just who goes bigger in that matchup, I'm taking the Coffer side.
Oh, yeah. Coffer is weird, though, because it like makes a bunch of mana to play the Black March to deal a bunch of damage and gain life. But, like, that's not good enough against Omnath, you know?
But they also play Damnable Pact.
Yeah, and Karn the Great Creator. I know. Anyway.
No Karn's actually in the Coffers list. We
Ooh,
have.
that's interesting. Beseech the Mirror, that's a cool one.
Yeah.
What is Damnable Pact?
Tutor. Or no, this is the Draw X, Lose X.
All right, we're underway here for game number 2. TJ Radizak down 1 with that Nivtalite deck getting blasted by a Bolas Citadel all in 1 turn. Impressive stuff from Bolliard. Blister paused the play for Bolliard early on here. We're going to see if he has one of those draw 2 sacrifice effects.
Yeah, that would be nice here, and to generate a Scion. It would also be nice to play Prosperous Innkeeper.
One of the coolest things about Bolliard's deck is that almost every time he sacrifices something, he's not only gaining 1 mana from Deadly Dispute, but often gaining another mana from the creature that he's sacrificing via treasure or even the Scions.
Yeah, they basically all generate a mana when they die. Blister Pod making the Scion, and Freebooter and Shambling Ghast generate the treasure.
Right. I do really love a Shambling Ghast. Sacrificing that to -1 in an opposing Ragavan or something is pretty sweet. I know it doesn't happen in Pioneer much, but just the minus effect is really cool.
Okay. Trying to get a peek at TJ's hand to see if he has good answers for Citadel. I think I see a Vanishing Verse.
Okay. Does play Beanstalk for the turn to draw a card. Leaves open a blue-black mana, so I doubt any serious interaction, but maybe has a Fatal Push or something.
Yeah, this is not a matchup where you need to interact a ton early.
You need sweepers only.
Yeah, and actually no copies of Fatal Push in TJ's particular list. I think Vanishing Verse sort of took over that spot.
Yeah. Here's Prosperous Innkeeper and a land drop. We're up to 2 treasures and the Scion as well as 3 lands, so we have 6 mana for potential Bolas of Citadel next turn.
And I
TJ.
Sylvan Caryatid was the draw at the top. If he has an untapped land, he can play the Caryatid and hold up Vanishing Verse. That would be a fine play. Stabilize the ground a bit, give you more mana on your next turn, and ensure that nothing crazy happens on Bolyard's following turn.
What if you instead tapped out and died?
Or didn't have a 4th land.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
Those are probably the 2 worst outcomes for TJ's turn.
Sometimes in spots like this, it's better to play tap out to play Sylvan Caryatid or something and gamble, but TJ knows that if Citadel is left unchecked, there's a very good chance he just dies. So here's Bolas of Citadel. Bolyard going to take a peek at the top. We're going to start by casting the 1-drop creature.
Greedy Freebooter.
The Greedy Freebooter. And we're going to Vanishing Verse in response. So Bolyard's going to get one more look at the top of the deck, though, to see if he can play an instant, one of those draw 2s.
No Dispute, no Offering, and instead the Citadel is going to go away. So, no harm to Bolyard's life total. The Innkeeper will recoup the 1 life needed to cast the Greedy Freebooter off the top with Citadel. And
say that 5 times fast.
And TJ avoids disaster.
Yeah, Vanishing Verse doing its best impression of Vindicate, taking out that 6-drop powerful permanent.
And now, with all the tokens gone for extra mana for Bolyard, is only going to have access to 5 mana with an untapped land next turn, potentially, so TJ knows he can tap out this turn to develop his battlefield and doesn't need to hold up interaction for a potential follow-up Citadel.
Yeah, and does so immediately with the Sylvan Caryatid, and now we're going to go back Bolyard's way. See if he has any sort of punish or way to rebuild.
Just going to play some more 1/1s. Yeah, get in there.
Look, you came to play 1/1s? Well, deck does it pretty good.
TJ doesn't even block one of them. Coward.
What if it gets +2/+0 somehow? You want to lose your land?
You looked through their deck in game 1.
Not the sideboard. What if there's a sideboard +2/+0 and can't die until end of turn or something?
I'm not.
Regeneration Shield. Look, all I'm saying is that you should always expect the worst thing possible to happen to you at all times and play around as
That's
best
how
you
I
can.
live my life, Todd. But I'm still blocking.
I always block. I don't even care. If you have it, you deserve it. Give it to them when they have it. TJ here draws the land, it looks like. So we can play a 5-drop and Bring to Light or a Niv. BTL maybe goes against Glyphweaver, plays the backside to blow up the world. Ooh, first time we've seen asking teammates for advice. Ryan Hayes says, I think you should play this Niv, homie.
We'll see if TJ follows his teammates' advice or says, no, I know what I'm doing.
All right, let's tap out. Oh, here's Bring to Light. He says, nuh-uh. Draw a card.
Is this going to be Unmoored Ego this time on Bolas the Citadel?
I think that might actually win the game. So I think that if TJ does that, I think it would be very smart.
Yeah. Taking a look at the sideboard from Matthew Bolyard, not much in the way of alternate threats to try to win a non-Citadel game. There's 2 Outland Liberator and 2 Scavenging Ooze. The Liberators are probably it, because there's plenty of enchantments to answer, whether it's Leyline Binding or Up the Beanstalk, even Fable the Mirror Breaker for the Outland Liberator. But other than that, it's a lot of disruption. 3 Thoughtseize, 2 Go Blank. I could see both of those being in, especially the Seizes, and then a bunch of disruption. So I think if this is the Unmoored Ego, Bolyard's going to have a tough time in this game.
This is some 2-headed giant action here. TJ says, what do I go get? Here's my deck. Ryan says, why don't you Unmoored Ego all those Bolas of Citadels and end the game? And TJ says, okay, boss. And now the Wrath effects are going to be particularly strong after this because there is no scary follow-up other than more 1/1s.
Oh, that is a Back to Nature. So there's 2 of those in the sideboard. Those came in for Bolyard as well.
Yeah, that's good for answering Leyline Binding and Up the Beanstalk, but it's not very good at answering all my Bolas of Citadels got exiled.
Yeah. And notably, TJ at 15, he's about to take a pretty big swing here. That's 5 damage coming across.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have too much time to clear up the board now that he has stopped the threat of Bolas' Citadel.
Yeah, we do get to draw a card too. There was a Bolsa Citadel in hand that got stripped. And one of the clauses on a lot of the extraction effects lately is you don't get that mega punish by getting the one in your hand. You get to replace it or sometimes make a zombie or something.
If I'm Boliard, I'm just crossing my fingers for a Thoughtseize. Let me see what's up in TJ's hand. Maybe take a sweeper or a second copy of Bring to Light. They could find a sweeper and try to end this game in the fairway.
All right, looks like we're going to sack the freebooter, and we're going to scry and make a treasure. We're doing this to manipulate our draw for next turn, looking for some piece of interaction, some big punish for TJ being tapped out, but without Bolsa Citadel, I don't know how much is there. Maybe, oh man, Devil, maybe that's the one he was going for.
Found that one off the second scry, and the game might end here.
Here it is, the Devil.
So this is going to be an attack for 5. That'll put TJ to 10. Or no, because our 1/1 turned into treasure. It's attack for 4. So TJ to 11. Can we find more damage here? 11's going to be tough.
11's tough, but if TJ doesn't answer right now, dead next turn almost 100%. We know there's 2 of the sack draw 2s in hand as well.
So what can TJ find here to try to stabilize?
It's like Molten Collapse, and maybe starts with that on the Mayhem Devil just to see what Boliard does. Let's get Molten Collapse on the screen. This is a cool new card. Basically Terminate at sorcery speed, but has the added option of being able to blow up some random non-creature stuff, Pithy Needles and the like. I quite like Molten Collapse. I think it's a really interesting addition to the game.
I think I see Casualties of War in TJ's hand as well. That's a little clunky for this spot, especially with him being a little short on mana.
Okay, so it looks like we're going to in response, draw 2, deal some damage. TJ down to 9. Molten Collapse. See you later.
Yeah, get a map token off that Fanatical Offering. Or is that Dispute? Hard to tell which one is which.
All right, another Sylvan Keratin. We're going to go back Boliard's way. Only 9 life for TJ to work with, but Mayhem Devil is gone. Woestrider can attack into the Keratids and deal 3.
Yeah, that was a Fanatical Offering, so it's a map token for Boliard. It could, if you can find another map token, could potentially explore up this Prosperous Innkeeper to attack into the Caryatids. But instead, TJ just falling to 6. Notably, the extra point of damage he took on that turn, kind of important right now, because the Woestrider is exactly a 2-turn clock.
Right. And he was a little light on mana earlier, so every time he has to chump block with a Sylvan Keratid, it feels pretty bad. But here comes a 6/6. No?
We're going to Casualties of War first. I think Niv Mizzet is better. It stops a Woestrider from attacking by itself and lets you find some more interaction if you need it.
All right, draw a card also off up the Beanstalk. Finds a Colossus, I believe. That can maybe get us some life back later. We're going to reveal the top 10. We get 1 of each color pair in hand. No fatal pushes in the list, he says.
Helix
no fatal push in the list, he says. There's 2 right there, homie.
There are, well, in the main deck. There are 2 in the sideboard. So going to pick up Vanishing Verse, Lightning Helix, and Wandering Mind.
We have a update from the back table. Cowden in Standard takes the match 2-0. Azorius controlled defeating Golgari mid-range. So 1-0 in matches for the team of Cowden, Radizak, and Hayes. Radizak might need it. It's coming down to the wire here, but this game doesn't look that bad.
Yeah, I think the Lightning Helix probably puts it away. Boliard was going to need to find the final Mayhem Devil to finish this one off. And now at 9 life, no Woestrider, I think it's going to be tough to do that. But TJ still does have to turn the corner here and start clocking Matthew, who's at 24 life and still has the Innkeeper on the battlefield. So it's going to be a little while before TJ can actually close this one out, which kind of worries me because there's only 11 minutes, a little under 11 minutes on their clock.
Yeah, I think that's a great thing to note because there's a chance that TJ does not win this game and then can't even force a draw. If he is unable to complete this game, then his team is likely going to lose.
And there's a second Innkeeper off the top for Boliard. That is a great card at extending this game if he wants to hopefully take this match down 1-0-1, which is, I gotta say, I would say a little ambitious. 10 minutes is a lot of time still left, but the Citadel deck is very good at just being annoying to finish off.
All right, here comes Woe Strider from the graveyard. It's going to escape the underworld, just like Elspeth. It's going to get 2 counters, make a goat, and now we can sacrifice at will. So if we find another Mayhem Devil, might be able to get the job done. Finds Boseiju off the top with the map token. We know about that back nature as well, so no enchantments are safe.
Fortunately for TJ, he's drawn the non-enchantment removal this game.
All right, looks like we stabilized, so now it's up to TJ to physically finish the game in time. We'll see if he's able to do it. He can get aggressive here with the Niv, maybe play Cloth to start clocking for some damage from the graveyard. Maybe he wants to play some sort of spot removal or sweeper to get Woe Strider gone for good.
I also see a Nahiri the Harbinger in hand. I love this Vanishing Verse. Boliard basically tapped out, so no chance at him sacrificing it to a Fanatical Offering or Deadly Dispute in response and continuing to bring it back.
Has a Colossus. Now, that is technically an enchantment, but Back to Nature says destroy, and it is indestructible. So, unfortunately, not quite the answer there. We're going to go with Wandering Mine instead, but maybe that means we're going to be playing both. Top is 5 lands and a Nimizet Supreme. Unfortunately, missing with Wandering Mine yet again.
How the Wandering Mine does represent 1 devotion for Klothys. I think we have enough. Oh, instead just place another Wandering Mine. Klothys would have been a creature there.
Alright, finds Sunfall, Bring to Light. Gonna take the Bring to Light, and that can be anything.
Yeah, that should wrap this game up.
Do you know Bring to Light can go get a Bring to Light? And then that Bring to Light can go get Crashing Footfalls? That's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
I don't know if that does anything, but...
It gets you 2 rhinos.
Alright, taps 2. Boliard here. Let's see if he can find a combo kill. It's going to be difficult without Bolsa Citadel. If I were him, I might scoop this game and just to see if we can try to win a game 3 in time with access to all those Bolsa Citadels. But going to go ahead and just play out a bunch of creatures and maybe try to win this game 101.
Yeah, going up to, I think, 31, unless our spotter was really quick with it.
Well, it is Terran.
Yeah.
He's doing pretty good out there.
He's on top of it. Okay, so 29 life. Yeah. TJ going to have to start chunking in with these flyers.
Whereas going for a Bring to Light here. My guess is going to go get Mr. Supreme. Let's get Nimizet Supreme on the table, or on the screen, because that one's a relatively new one, and me and TJ had a bit of a talk about it. Instead, going to go for Extinction Event instead, so we're just going to clean up all these evens, and our board is mostly odds except for the Sylvan Caryatids, so...
Yeah, so I want to float some mana in response to these activations from Boliard. There you go.
Float 2 rainbows.
Double rainbow.
Yeah. Double rainbow. I haven't heard that in forever. All right. Gonna name Even Stevens. All the evens gone. Caryatid's gone. We're gonna buy Yorion.
Yeah.
And then a big attack, but we do need to get the Sylvan Caryatids off the table. Which is, oh, they got them.
Yeah. Got that. This is a 3-turn clock, so I believe this game will end relatively quickly. And Boliard, I mean, I'm with you, Todd. If I'm a Boliard seat, like, I'm the one that can actually end a game quickly in this match. I want to get to game 3 and give myself a shot.
Here's Woe Strider. Gonna go back TJ's way. 10 in the air coming. Boliard down to 9. No way to defend against these flyers. Colossus in hand as well. Yorion in hand as well. Yorion here bouncing all 3 creatures is kind of nutty.
It's nutty, but it also takes a lot of time.
Well, just choose not to blink anything and play your 4/5 flyer.
Yeah, instead of just going to get a Colossus down.
Yeah, hold up a couple removal spells or something. Smart. Boliard going to sack the Goat and Scry before drawing. Draws another land. That's going to do it. TJ going to even it up 1-1. We're going to go for a map first, just to see. It's another Woe Strider. Or is that Shambling Ghast?
Yeah, that's a Shambling Ghast.
Okay.
So, Yeah, nothing going here for Bulliard. And he is going to fall victim to these flyers, and we're going to try to see if we can get a third game going.
Clothis eats the shambling gas. We're going to swing. Bulliard packs it in. Game 2 goes to TJ. We got a game 3 on our hands. We're going to see who takes it down, but I'm not sure if that one's going to come to a full conclusion. So
5 minutes on the clock is going to be tough. Bulliard still has a shot. An early bolus of Citadel, the turn might take forever to kill you, but you get to finish that turn.
Right.
Bulliard can do it. I really doubt TJ can. So he's holding on for a draw and hoping his teammate Ryan Hayes can take down the modern match and finish the match for his team without the third game in Pioneer Mattering.
All right, let's head on over to that modern match. Ryan Hayes versus Jeremy Harmon, Omnath versus Cabal Coffers. And we are going to see if the match will conclude on their game. If Hayes does take down game number 2, then it will be over in favor of the team Hayes, Radizak, and Cowden. Cowden and Zori's control defeating Golgari mid-range.
Well, this is actually a great spot if Ryan is indeed up 1-0, because if they draw 2 matches, then the one match they won in Standard is decisive for the team. So
why would you curse me with this?
It's actually the team of Harmon, Bulliard, and McKee that needs to get a match win on the board in order to sneak out a draw in the overall match.
All right, so we are deep into game number 2 here. Harmon on Mono Black Coffers has a shoulder on the battlefield, is casting Orcish Bowmasters. That meets Counterspell. Hayes with a Gripful and a Renin 6 at 7 loyalty. And passing back the turn, Ryan Hayes now looks like he has ultimate Renin 6 on the table.
And with plenty of life, it's going to be difficult for Harmon to end this game anytime soon.
Even has a Solitude to protect his life total even more from the Shieldred. Every life point does matter against the big Cabal Coffer fireballs.
Looks like we're getting... Are we getting life totals adjusted?
They might already be adjusted. We might just be making sure the Shieldred deals us no damage because our hand is awesome. Or horrible. I don't know. But now we have a Renin 6 emblem and Counterspell in the graveyard, and it looks like at least 3 lands in hand. So can't imagine Harmon takes this one down. But we're going to watch the rest of this game and see.
Yeah, win here would lock up round 2 for the team of Hayes, Radizak, and Cowden.
Drawing the game here also locks up the match for Hayes, Cowden, and Radizak, because that'll be a 1-0-1 victory for Hayes in the match. And that'll be 2 matches to 0.
Yeah. A very long team match here in round 2, but that's what you get when everybody's playing such powerful cards. You start trading haymakers. None of them are actually powerful enough to end the game like they normally are.
All right, we are casting the One Ring with, it seems like, 2 black mana floating. And now Hayes has to decide if he wants to play Counterspell on the One Ring or not. Normally a no-brainer, but in this spot, you only have access to 1 Counterspell, and your opponent has a ton of extra mana lying around. And you have to wonder, what can be worse than the One Ring here? Quite a bit.
And we'll see if Harmon does indeed have something worse.
Well, just a second ring, so no harm, no foul.
It's not worse.
Yeah, it's the same. Okay, draws a card. Can Harmon physically win the game in under 2 minutes and turns? It's going to be difficult. That red emblem plus a bunch of counter spells and lands in hand means it's going to be quite difficult.
Yeah, I foresee a lot of draws in the match results here. But as we noted, draws are very good for one of these teams because Nick Cowden was able to take down the standard match, Zori's Control, triumphing over Golgari midrange.
All right, here comes a Kahira. Solitude with Vigilance, but can't deal damage this turn thanks to the protection of the One Ring. Hayes with a grip full of lands, but thanks to the Ren emblem, has access to every card in his graveyard, including Counterspell, Force of Negation. And we'll see if Harmon can fight through all these counterspells, but Ren Emblem's hard to beat, even with the One Ring active.
Yeah, and certainly hard to beat quickly.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I cast a giant card. Ryan, tank. Counter it.
Oh, I cast another giant card.
Let me think about that. Counter it.
No.
Third Cabal Coffers. Why is that one not legendary?
The Cabal needs a lot of coffers. They got a lot of stuff.
Oh, that's true. They're rich. They always need more space for their for
Their
their hoard of
riches.
wealth. I actually adore the card Cabal Coffers. I read the book for Torment, and well, it's from Odyssey, but Torment was the big one for Black in that era, and a lot of cool stuff in the vault.
Harman going to keep struggling here, but they are running out of time.
Gonna Field of Ruin looks like going after a white source. Maybe it's a blue white source is the one that's more important to note. And we have hit time, and so now it's turn 0, and we're gonna try to get the game concluded in 5 turns, and I doubt it will be.
But the match will conclude.
Yes. For those of you at home, in tournaments, if you are 1-0-1 in games finished, then the person who won the game wins the match. And in the team events, if one person's won a match, another person's drawn a match, and another person's drawn a match, then
102 is
102.
also decisive for the
Yep.
team that has a match win.
So now the games are just taking pretty long too. I would not consider many of the players playing slowly here. A lot of it has to do with just the immense amount of shuffling that happens in Modern specifically. As for the Bolsa Citadel deck, I mean, you saw game 1 took an enormous amount of time, but that was a lot of because of the manipulation of the Bolsa Citadel turn.
Yeah, and I think Bolliard might be kicking himself after this match, thinking, I could have conceded that game earlier. There wasn't really any chance of me winning. Might have had an additional 3-4 minutes to potentially win a game 3 and then sneak out a draw for his team.
All right, Harman here. Looks like we have a Thoughtseize. Impossible to tell. Damnation is the cast.
Sure.
We're going to counterspell that.
Counter it.
Yeah. Still has Force of Negation in the graveyard as well. Lands in hand as well.
Yeah, Ryan Hayes was counterspell flooded.
Nito. Their bodies rotted, their bones splintered, and their souls frayed to tatters. Only then were they granted the mercy of death.
Poetic.
I liked it when they put Shakespeare on cards for flavor text. I always thought that was cool. Here's the Orcish Bowmasters. This one doesn't seem so threatening. Deal you 1. Okay. You got it.
Okay. Well, Bowmaster and the token probably jump in front of some stuff on the next turn just to keep this game moving on.
All right. We're going to be moving to turn 1 of 5 here in just a moment. These could be some really long turns here, so we might be preparing for a real slobber knocker in the next few turns, because these Cabal Coffers plus the 1 ring means we're going to be multi-spelling every turn for the foreseeable.
As long as Harman still has gas.
Well, there is a Beseech the Mirror. We're going to sacrifice the token. We're going to go digging for a 4-drop. Ryan might just counter the Beseech. I don't hate that.
This could be another Damnation. It could be a Shieldred. Maybe he wants to Grief. Take a look at Ryan's hand. A few options for Harman here on this Beseech the Mirror. Could also find another copy of the 1 ring.
Yeah, and if you're Ryan, you can also just wait until the card is cast and then deal with that. So it goes to the graveyard, so it's not a potential draw later on. It looks like Harman is actually pretty light on physical cards in deck. I don't think it'll end up mattering, but...
Nah.
And Ryan says, you know what? Damnation's fine. I'll just counter your win conditions over the next 2 turns. And with the Wrenn Emblem, you know, stuff like Thoughtseize, unable to clear the way.
Yeah. Ryan knows that a draw is good for him, so it doesn't need to be overly aggressive this game. Just make sure you don't lose. You only have to do that for a couple more turns.
All right, looks like players are on turn 3 of turns, so I guess they were on a slightly different clock, but it's okay. Turn 4, Ryan's going to pass back. Now has the ability to double counterspell. And I don't think that Harman's going to be able to punch through, but we'll have to wait and see. Cabal Coffers with a ton of mana and active 1 ring. It's pretty terrifying.
Yeah, but with this on turn 4, I don't think there's anything Harman can do. Oh, I guess Damnable Pact is target player. He can try to resolve a Damnable Pact for lethal damage, but Hayes has plenty of lands in hand and the Ren Emblem to retrace Counterspell from the graveyard.
All right, gonna make a bunch of mana. Looks like Pithing Needle.
Yep.
I think that one's fine. I can't imagine that's scary.
Yeah. Retrace is an alternate cost, not an activated or triggered ability of any kind, so Needle will not shut down the ability for Ryan to cast Counterspell from the graveyard.
Notably, with Pithing Needle, you also have to name a card, and emblems are not cards. There are some emblems that have like an activated ability on them, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
But here's the Beseech going to go ahead and sack the Pithing Needle. We'll see if Ryan wants to counter that or what Harman goes and gets.
Ren and 6, the name on the Pithing Needle. Yeah. Should have named Floral Spasm.
Should have named I Am Already Dead.
Should have named Abandon Hope.
Should have named Sarpadian Empires Volume 2. Volume 7? Which one is it? I can't remember.
I think it might be 8, but
Here's a Sheoldred the Apocalypse on the stack. Mr. Hayes, do you want to stop it? I would say no.
irrelevant.
Yeah, just stop the damnable packs only.
It'll deal Ryan 2 damage on turn 5, but he's at 10. Last time I checked, 2 was less than 10.
Yeah, and he lets it go. We're going to draw 3, gain 6, up to 22. And we're looking for maybe Urborg for a little extra mana off the coffers into multiple damnable packs. Maybe some way to exile the graveyard first that's a force counter. Thoughtseize is like, yeah, Thoughtseize is fine. Yeah, no, that's fine.
Ryan shows off his 3 counter spells.
Yeah.
Granted, he can only cast 2 of them.
And honestly, that was some heads-up play from Harman, because knocking out one of them blue sources last turn prevented a 3rd counterspell from being cast, it looks like.
Yeah, but just not enough. Honestly, if this game kept going, I like Harman's spot, because eventually Ryan will run out of resources. He's not generating any card advantage here, while the One Ring is generating so much card advantage for Harman, and he's got pressure down. So, unfortunately for him, he's ahead in this game, but just didn't have enough time to close it out.
So here's a Dothi Voidwalker. So if a retrace spell gets cast from the graveyard, if the Voidwalker is in play, it will get exiled. So Ryan is contemplating countering this to ensure that the Ren Emblem is online, but he only really needs it online for the rest of this turn, thanks to it being turn 4 of turns. Alright, Ryan says that's okay. Here's a Grief, but we know there's just 3 lands in hand, down to 0 mana floating. Still has active coffers with 2 lands activated, but doesn't seem like we have anything really that scary. Ryan got to be breathing a big sigh of relief here.
Yeah, always tricky playing these late game scenarios in a team event where there's pressure on not only to help yourself, but help the people you're playing with.
Alright, plays another field. We're going to go back Ryan's way. Safely got to turn 5. Going to draw, take 2, down to 8. Pass a turn. Draws the game. Wins the match. Then we're going to go 2-0. Hayes Cowden. Radizak.
Yep. Just playing defense.
Yeah. Alright, GG's. Cool.
Hey,